Realtree's Midwest Whitetail is brought to you by Hoyt, Heumann Tree Saws, Lone Wolf Tree Stands, Nikon, Ozonics, Redneck Blinds, RTP Outdoors, Spot Hog Releases, Wasp Archery, Viking Solutions, and Realtree.
Day 18, November 3rd. I'm finally in the spot that I've wanted to get to ever since I started getting trail camera pictures of that big 7 buck. This is a ridge that's straight south of our house. And as I was telling Quentin this morning, it seems like every buck that lives in this area eventually cruises through this ridge top on some morning during daylight. So if we could sit here every single morning for the next week, I believe that deer would come past within daylight. We've got a southeast wind this morning, probably about 5, 6, 7 miles per hour, which takes my scent over the top of this ridge and up towards the house. And usually that works pretty good. I've got to get the ozonics up just to help out, but usually that works pretty good for carrying my scent over the heads of the deer that are on the downwind side because they're a lot lower as the ridge drops off. It doesn't always work, but it tends to work pretty well on a southeast wind. Most of the deer are going to be behind me on the south side. It's just the way they flow through this ridge top, so it sets up pretty well. This is the spot, like I said, that I've been waiting for, and it feels good to be back in this tree. I've had a lot of great hunts here over the years. I mean, I've said that about a lot of my spots, but you get some history with a farm and with some of the stand locations on that farm, and you have a soft spot for some of them, and for sure this is one of those kind of stands. It's a basswood tree, and there's no leaves, and so we stick out like a sore thumb up here. We're completely skyline, and I brought in some synthetic branches this year. Last year I tried to cut oak branches and put them up here, but the leaves fell off, fairly early into the season. So this year I got some synthetic branches, and I'm not even sure who makes them. There was some that I had in my garage that I found and stuck up here. So hopefully that's enough to keep the deer from seeing us. That's the main thing with this tree. We got to keep those does from seeing us when they're cruising along this ridgetop heading back into their bedding areas. So that's the chessboard for this morning's game. I've got high hopes. I think it's going to be a good hunt. It's closing in on 11, and the rain is starting to come down pretty good here, so I think we're going to call it quits for the morning. It was a decent morning, not maybe quite as many deer as what I expected up here, but this is going to be one of those spots that over the next 10 days, I'm sure that we're going to have some type of an encounter with a shooter buck. It's these bedding ridges like this during the early stages of the rut are great morning spots, and I've hunted this one quite a bit over the years, and it's always been really consistent and very productive. So I'm sure that you'll see us back here again. This stand sets up for south, and there's one just on the other side of the ridge that sets up for north wind. So if we have either a north or a south wind, we're probably going to be up here in the mornings. I'm not sure about this afternoon's hunt. This rain, looking at the forecast this morning, is supposed to set in for a while. And if that's the case, I'm probably going to do something with the family today and give Quentin a little break. You know, it's a lot of work filming all day and then having to produce the video blogs at night, so it might be good for him to go and get some laundry done. It's starting to smell bad. I would say we're going to be back in, worst case scenario, Sunday afternoon, possibly before then, but really depends on the weather. And I don't mind hunting in the rain. There's nothing wrong with it. This light rain isn't a bad thing. You know, for deer movement, it's just hard on the camera gear. So if you're going to take breaks, you might as well take it at times that, you know, makes a little bit of sense. So that's it for the morning. There was one buck that got my pulse going. When I first saw him, I thought it was a shooter. I thought it was the big 7, but it was just my wishful thinking, because it turned out to be a nice 3-year-old is what that buck was. But we heard some grunting, we heard some chasing, and we saw a few does slip past the tree, and that's about all we could hope for. Pretty good morning. So keep checking back, and we'll keep bringing you the rut. It's going to be a good next 10 days or so. Should be a lot of fun.